forgotten warning long ago, before humans even reached the stars. There were ancient races that ruled the galaxy. They were old, wise, and powerful. Among them were the Elders, beings who had seen more than 1,000 empires rise and fall. They left behind records carved into stone, etched into metal, and burned into memory crystals. Their warning was always the same. Do not wake what sleeps beyond the spiral arm. Do not follow the silence. Do not call the dark. But time is cruel. Warnings fade. Young races laugh at old stories. When the galaxy grew busy with trade, politics, and war, the Elders' words became nothing more than myths. Generations passed. The warning was forgotten, or worse, mocked as superstition. Yet the silence remained. Beyond the spiral arm, there was a black zone. No stars, no signals, no light. Many ships that wandered too close never returned. Some claimed it was just bad navigation, others blamed pirates. None wanted to admit they were afraid. The galaxy moved on. Far away, humanity was still young among the stars. They were not the strongest, not the oldest, not the richest. But they were curious. Humans love to ask questions others ignored. And sometimes, curiosity leads to danger. One quiet cycle, a scout vessel from the Cathari Dominion entered the Black Zone. It was a small ship with only 8 crew members. They sent back cheerful reports at first: empty space, nothing unusual, no signs of threat. Then the report stopped. Hours later, a final transmission came through, broken and full of static. The crew's voices screamed. Metal groaned. A single word was heard before silence swallowed everything. Awake. The signal cut. No ship returned. The Council of the Galaxy dismissed it quickly. A malfunction, they said. An engine collapse, nothing more. But not everyone believed. In secret, old historians dug out Elder records. They compared the last signal to the words written long ago. Their hands shook as they read, "Do not wake what sleeps beyond the spiral arm." Still, the great powers of the galaxy laughed. The Valori called it space madness. The Tarlac dismissed it as engine trouble. Even the mighty Krell said, if there was danger, we would feel it. And so, the stars ignored the warning again. Only humanity watched closer. On Earth and Mars, scientists replayed the last signal over and over. They slowed it, cleaned the static, and listened to the broken screams. There was something else in the background, not the voice of the crew, not the tearing of metal. Something deeper, a sound like stone grinding against stone, or a mountain rising from the ground, a sound too big for a ship, too big for a world. The humans did not laugh. Years passed. More ships vanished, some from trade fleets, some from explorers, some from pirates. The Black Zone grew larger each year. The stars along its edge flickered, strangely, as if being swallowed. And yet still the Council mocked. It is chance, nothing more. The Elders were long dead, their voices gone. Only their carved warnings remained. But humanity began to prepare. Small colonies near the edge of the Black Zone started to fortify. Patrol ships scanned the silence. Families whispered stories of an enemy no one else dared to name. One night on Titan Station, a young officer asked his captain, "Sir, do you believe the old warnings?" The captain stared out into the void. The Black Zone shimmered faintly on the edge of his display. "I don't know," he said at last. "But I believe something is out there, and it is watching us." The galaxy carried on as if nothing had changed. But the truth was spreading like a shadow. The Valori lost a science ship. The Krell lost a war cruiser. Each time, no bodies were found. No wreckage. No trace. It was as if the ships were erased, yet humans kept the records. They marked every disappearance, every strange signal, every flickering star. They began to see the shape of something vast, slowly moving, slowly growing. The Elders had been right. Something was sleeping in the dark, and every lost ship was another step toward waking it. The first great meeting of the Galactic Council, after the disappearances, was full of laughter and arguments. Alien leaders spoke proudly. waving reports, saying there was nothing to fear. The silence is natural. The void has always been empty. Then a human ambassador stood up. He held a small device and pressed play. The chamber filled with the broken scream of the Cathari crew. The grinding sound echoed through the hall. Silence followed, but the council still refused to act. Parlor tricks, one alien sneered. Fearmongering. Another laughed. If danger exists, it will not touch us. The humans left the chamber in silence, but their eyes were hard. Back on Earth, a message spread quietly among human worlds. The elders warned us the galaxy ignored them, but we will listen. The warning was no longer forgotten. It had become a promise. The first human patrol. The council had laughed. The elders' warnings were ignored again. But humanity did not forget. Quietly, they sent ships to watch the edge of the Black Zone. The first patrol was small, just one ship, Horizon's Wake. It was not a warship, not a mighty cruiser. It was a patrol craft, thin armor, fast engines, 4 human crew. The galaxy thought it was useless, but the humans believed knowledge mattered more than size. Captain Elias Dane sat in the command chair, eyes fixed on the dark stretch of stars. The others worked silently. Lieutenant Harper at the sensors, Engineer Imani at the power core, and Pilot Reyes at the helm. They had orders to patrol near the zone, record signals, and return alive. No one said it, but all of them knew. Few ships ever returned. Hours passed. The void was quiet. Too quiet. Lieutenant Harper frowned at the display. "Captain, the stars don't line up." "What do you mean?" Elias asked. She zoomed the screen. 3 stars we marked on entry. 1 is gone. Elias blinked. Gone? Stars don't just vanish. But it was true. A white dwarf on the chart now showed only empty black. No explosion, no debris, just nothing. The crew exchanged uneasy looks later. While Reyes steered carefully around drifting rock, the ship's lights flickered. "Power drop," Engineer Imani said. Her hands danced across glowing panels. "Something is pulling at the core, not natural interference." A deep vibration ran through the hull. The crew froze. It sounded like a slow heartbeat, echoing from the void itself. "Captain," Harper whispered. "We are not alone." Elias gave the order. "Record everything, do not engage, quiet running, full scan." The ship's sensors reached into the black. For minutes there was only static. Then, a signal. Broken. Heavy. Like voices whispering from underwater. "Reyes," muttered. "That's not language." Imani disagreed. "It is, but not ours." The voices grew louder, overlapping, too many to count. The crew clutched their ears. The sound wasn't just heard, it pressed into their minds. Then suddenly, silence. The stars outside twisted. Shapes moved where no shapes should be. Black forms darker than space itself drifted past the viewport. They had no engines, no heat, no light. Yet they moved with purpose, sliding like shadows across reality. Harper gasped. "Captain, they're looking at us." The ship's alarms screamed. Unknown gravity fields locked on. The hull groaned like bending steel. Reyes fought. "The helm, they've got us! Evasive!" Elias barked. The Horizon's Wake spun sharply, engines burning white-hot. The shadow forms followed, silent, patient. One stretched long claws of darkness across the stars, reaching. Imani shouted, "Shields failing! Divert power to engines." Elias ordered. The patrol craft shot forward, streaking away from the zone. But the shadows did not slow. For 6 long minutes it was a desperate chase. The humans fired flares, dropped decoys, anything to distract the things behind them. Nothing worked. The black forms ignored it all. "They want us," Harper said, through clenched teeth. Suddenly, one shadow lunged. It struck the hull, and the lights went out. Darkness swallowed the ship. Only emergency red glow remained. Whispers filled the corridors. Not from the crew, from the walls, from the air. Words in no language they knew. Some begged, some mocked, Some simply repeated, "Awake." The crew trembled. Imani's hands shook on the controls. "It's inside. The voices are inside." Elias slammed his fist on the chair. "Hold steady, they want fear, don't give it." At that moment, Reyes did something no alien race would have dared. He pushed the ship directly into an asteroid field. Massive rocks spun at deadly speed. One mistake meant instant death. "Are you insane?" Harper shouted. "Better rocks than them," Reyes growled. The ship weaved through tumbling stone. The shadows followed, but slower. They slipped between the asteroids with eerie grace, but they could not match human recklessness. One collided with a spinning mountain of rock. The asteroid cracked. The shadow screamed, not in sound but in thought. The crew felt the pain in their skulls. The thing dissolved into black mist. The others paused. Elias saw it and shouted, "They can be hurt! Keep going!" The patrol broke free of the field. Only 2 shadows followed now, but the ship's engines smoked. Shields were gone. The crew was exhausted. "Distance closing," Harper warned. Elias stared into the dark. He knew they would not survive a second encounter, but humanity had one weapon left. "Transmit everything," he ordered. "Every second, every signal, beam it to Earth. Even if we die, the galaxy must know." Imani pressed the keys. Data burst out into space, racing home. The shadows struck again. The ship trembled, metal bending, alarms shrieking. One wall tore open, exposing stars. The crew held on as atmosphere roared out, and then, light. A nearby star flared suddenly, sending a wave of radiation across the sector. The shadows recoiled, hissing silently. They melted into the black, vanishing as quickly as they came. The horizon's wake limped away, wounded but alive. Hours later, the ship staggered into human space. The crew collapsed in their chairs, battered but breathing. They had seen the truth. The elders' warnings were real. Humanity now had proof. But in the black zone, deeper voices stirred. The patrol had survived, and in doing so had been noticed. The darkness was awake, the broken alliance. The humans returned with proof. The recording from Horizon's wake spread quickly, across colonies, across star stations, across worlds. Everyone who heard the whispers in the signal felt their skin crawl. The shadows were real, but the Galactic Council did not want to believe. Belief meant fear. Belief meant war, and war meant loss of power. In the grand chamber of the council, leaders of many species gathered. The dome stretched high, stars visible through transparent walls. Hundreds of delegates floated or sat in circles, each surrounded by their banners. At the center, a human envoy stood. Ambassador Mara Cade, tall and calm, her voice sharp as iron. She played the recording for all to hear. Screams echoed. The grinding sound shook the chamber. Then silence. Mara looked around. "This is no trick. This is no superstition. Humanity has faced them. They are real. The elders were right." For a moment, the chamber was quiet. Then laughter broke out. The Valori High Speaker raised his jeweled crest. "You humans are dramatic. A censor error, nothing more." The Krell general slammed a claw against the desk. "If shadows could destroy stars, we would know. Our fleets are unmatched." Another alien, thin and pale, hissed, "Perhaps the humans create these ghosts to gain power among us." Mara's eyes burned. "Do you think we would fake this? Do you think my crew would bleed and suffer for a trick?" But the chamber roared with debate. Every race argued, each voice louder than the last. Some demanded investigation. Others demanded silence. Many accused humanity of lies. The alliance began to crack. Behind the scenes, whispers grew. Some races wanted to side with humanity. The Ketheri, who had lost their scout ship, now suspected the truth. The small Mirren merchants believed too many of their traders had vanished. Even a few Krell commanders admitted unease, but most of the powerful blocs rejected the warnings. They feared panic. They feared losing control. One Valori counselor sneered, Better to call humans liars than admit we are all afraid. And so the vote was cast. The council officially declared the Black Zone a restricted myth. No ships would enter. No discussion would follow. The Elder's warning was silenced once more. Back on Earth, Mara returned in fury. She spoke to the United Human Fleet leaders. They will not stand with us, we must stand alone. Admiral Wren replied, alone, we will die. But Mara shook her head. Not alone. There are those who believe. We must find them. And so began the Broken Alliance. In secret, humans reached out. They sent coded messages to alien commanders who whispered doubt. They spoke to traitors who lost ships. They gathered allies not by council order but by trust and fear. Ships from 5 different species joined them quietly. Not fleets, small groups, broken cruisers, old freighters, single warships. Not enough to stop a galactic storm, but enough to make a spark. Meanwhile, the great powers mocked them. News feeds across alien worlds called humanity the fearmongers of Earth. Cartoons showed humans hiding under beds. Speeches declared humans weak and paranoid. But in dark places, the people listened. Citizens wondered, what if the humans are right? The shadows did not wait. In the Black Zone, entire mining colonies went silent. No distress calls, no wreckage, just silence. A Valori outpost vanished, every soul gone. The official report called it an atmospheric leak. But workers who escaped swore they saw the stars themselves swallowed. Still the council denied. Still they laughed. One night, aboard a hidden human station near Jupiter, the secret alliance gathered. Representatives from 6 races stood in a circle. Holograms of vanished ships glowed between them. Admiral Wren spoke first. The council is blind. We will act without them. A Cathari captain nodded. Our people remember the scream. We will not forget. A Mirran traitor placed her hands together. Profit means nothing if the galaxy is gone. Mara raised her voice. Then we are agreed. Humanity will lead. Together, we will prepare. They placed their marks on the pact. It was fragile, small, but real. The Broken Alliance was born. Yet even within their secret unity, fear spread. One Krell officer whispered to another, why humans? Why should they lead? The other replied, because they are the only ones who refuse to run. Weeks later, word reached Mara. The shadows had moved again. This time they did not simply erase ships. They hunted. A convoy of 3 freighters and 1 escort vanished on live broadcast. Cameras showed claws of black cutting through metal, tearing ships apart. The feed ended in static. The galaxy trembled. But instead of admitting truth, the council pointed a finger at humanity. See? They shouted. The humans bring chaos, their fear spreads. Without them, the galaxy would be calm. And so, humanity was not only ignored, they were blamed. Mara watched the council's message play across Earth screens. Her hands clenched. They blame us, she said softly. Admiral Wren looked at her. Good. Let them. While they point fingers, we will prepare. And when the shadows come for them, they will beg us for help. Mara turned back to the stars. Her eyes were cold, but inside burned fire. The elders had warned the stars, the council did not believe. But humanity was ready. First clash in the dark. The Broken Alliance was fragile, but it existed. 6 races, led by humanity, sent a small fleet into the Black Zone. 23 ships in total. Some were powerful cruisers. Others were patched freighters, armed with stolen guns. Not enough for glory, barely enough for survival. The mission was simple. Test the darkness. Find the truth. Return alive if possible. The fleet drifted in silence as it entered the zone. Stars vanished behind them, swallowed by a wall of black. One by one, signals grew weaker. Static hissed in every channel. On the bridge of the human flagship Resolute, Captain Elias Dane stood with his crew. He had survived the first patrol in Horizon's wake. Now he returned, leading a larger force. His voice was calm, but his eyes showed memory of terror. "Stay tight. Record everything. No one breaks formation," he ordered. The aliens listened. Some respected him. Others followed only because their leaders had forced them. Yet all of them feared what lay ahead. For 6 hours, nothing happened. Just dark space, endless and silent. A Vylori commander sneered over comms. "See? Nothing. But shadows of the mind the humans exaggerate." But then Harper, the same sensor officer from Elias's patrol, spoke. Her voice shook. "Captain, the stars are disappearing." Screens showed it clearly. Distant lights, one after another, winking out. Not explosions, not collapse. Just gone. A silence deeper than silence filled the fleet. Then came the whisper. Awake. It rolled through every ship at once, not by radio, not by sound, but directly inside every mind. Half the alien crews screamed. Some dropped to the floor. Others clawed at their ears. Elias gritted his teeth. "All ships, hold steady." But fear spreads faster than fire. The shadows appeared. At first, shapes moved across the screens. Massive dark forms sliding through the void. They had no heat, no engines, no design. They were not ships. They were something else. The Krell flagship opened fire. Blue plasma streaked across space. For a moment, hope flared. But the bolts vanished into the shadows like stones thrown into water. No impact. No effect. The shadows struck back. They did not fire weapons. They touched. One shadow swept across a Mirren freighter. Lights died instantly. The ship went dark, silent. No escape pods launched. No distress calls. The freighter simply drifted, empty. Panic exploded. Ships broke formation. Some turned and fled, their engines burning white. "Hold the line," Elias roared, but no one listened. 3 more ships vanished, erased by the black. A Cathari destroyer screamed over comms before being cut off mid-word. A Vylori cruiser split apart without fire, torn like paper. The fleet collapsed, yet the humans stayed. Resolute and 2 smaller frigates turned directly toward the shadows. Their weapons lit the void. Railguns spat fire. Missiles streaked. For the first time, something happened. A shadow recoiled, its form twisting unnaturally. Not destroyed, but hurt. Harper gasped. "They can bleed." Elias's jaw tightened. "Then we fight." The humans attacked again, reckless and furious. They did not aim for safety. They drove close, firing point blank into the dark. Their ships shook from the strain, but they refused to stop. The aliens watched in disbelief. For them, war was strategy, careful and measured. But humans fought like creatures with nothing left to lose. One Krell commander whispered to another, "They are mad." The other replied, "No, they are human." The shadows shifted. They turned their focus on Resolute. Pressure crushed against the hull, bending steel. Voices filled the crew's heads. Promises of surrender, illusions of home, visions of death. Some crew members cried. Some almost gave in. Elias stood tall. His voice cut through the whispers. "Stand with me. If we fall together. But humanity does not kneel." The crew roared in reply. Fear did not vanish, but courage rose higher. They fired everything. Guns, torpedoes, even mining charges stolen from old colonies. Explosions ripped across the void. For the first time, the shadows faltered. The black forms retreated, not destroyed, but pushed back. Silence followed. The surviving ships floated in ruins. Half the fleet was gone, the rest damaged. Elias looked at the wreckage, his heart heavy. Yet he knew this was not defeat, because something had changed. The galaxy now had proof. The shadows were real. They could bleed, and humanity, reckless and stubborn, had drawn that blood. Back at the Galactic Council, reports arrived. Alien leaders stared at the evidence. The recordings of shadows twisting under fire, the screams of lost ships, the courage of human defiance. Some trembled, others denied. But none could laugh anymore. A Valori minister whispered, "If the humans can hurt them, maybe we need them." A Krell general snarled, "Or maybe they have doomed us all." The chamber fell into chaos. On Resolute, Elias stood at the viewport. His ship drifted, scarred and broken, but alive. Harper joined him. "Captain, was it worth it?" Elias nodded slowly. "Yes, now they know. The shadows can be fought, and when the next battle comes, humanity will lead it." He looked out into the void, where the shadows still lingered at the edge of sight. Watching. Waiting. The war had begun. Humanity's fire. The first battle in the dark was over. It was not victory, but it was not defeat. The shadows still lived, but for the first time something had wounded them. The fleet limped back, broken and bleeding. Of the 23 ships that entered, only 9 returned. Most belonged to humans. For other races, it was shame. For humans, it was proof. On a shattered moon near the edge of the Black Zone, survivors gathered. The surface was cracked, covered in dust with ruins of old mining stations. They built shelters from scraps of metal. Wounded crews lay under makeshift tents. Alien commanders sat in silence, their faces heavy with grief. They had lost fleets. Before, but never like this, never without understanding their enemy. One Valori officer wept openly. A Krell warrior sat with his head bowed, claws trembling. "Why fight again?" one alien whispered. "It is hopeless. The shadows cannot be destroyed." But the humans did not weep. Around a fire made from broken ship fuel, Captain Elias Dane and his crew sat with others. Their uniforms were torn, their bodies bruised, but their eyes burned bright. Lieutenant Harper patched a wound on her arm while laughing at Reyes, the pilot, who complained about a cracked rib. Even Engineer Imani, exhausted and pale, hummed a tune as she welded scraps into a heating coil. The aliens watched with disbelief. A Mirren trader finally asked, "Why do you sing? Why do you laugh? You lost more than any of us." Elias answered, simply, "Because giving up means nothing survives. If we have fire left, we use it." The word spread through the camp. Simple, but powerful. The next day, humanity began to rebuild. On the moon's surface, they dragged wreckage together. Broken ship hulls became walls. Weapons salvaged from destroyed frigates were remounted as ground cannons. Engineers rewired power cells into shields for the shelters. Alien survivors expected despair. Instead, they saw humans work with fierce energy. "Why?" a Krell officer demanded. "The shadows will come again. This will not stop them." Imani looked up from her work. "Maybe not, but we fight anyway. That is what it means to be human." At night, the survivors gathered again around the fire. Stories were told. Reyes told of old Earth pilots who flew into storms just to see the other side. Harper spoke of explorers who crossed oceans with nothing but wooden boats. Imani recalled how miners on Mars carved homes out of stone with their bare hands. The aliens listened, wide-eyed. For them, history was about empires and victories. For humans, it was about survival, struggle, and stubbornness. Slowly, the camp began to change. One evening, a Kethari captain stood up. "Your fire, it spreads. I thought my people were alone in our fear. But you remind me, we can resist." Another voice joined, a Mirren trader. "If humans fight, then we will too." One by one, more aliens spoke. The hopelessness began to fade. The fire had spread. Meanwhile, the shadows did not rest. Scouts reported entire systems going silent. An outpost near the border was gone, not even ruins left. But for the first time, news of the human stand gave others courage. Across the stars, whispers grew. The humans fought them. The humans hurt them. The humans burned fire in the dark. Small groups began to defect from the Council's denial. Lone ships, mercenary bands, broken colonies, all turned toward humanity. The broken alliance grew. Back on Earth, Ambassador Mara Cade addressed the people. Her speech was short, but it carried across every human colony and into alien channels. We have seen the enemy. We have bled before it. But we are not broken. Humanity is fire, and fire spreads. To every world that hears this, stand with us. If we fight together, the dark cannot win. The message was replayed 1,000 times. Some mocked it, some feared it, but many felt hope for the first time. On the moon, Elias stood with his crew, watching new arrivals land, ships carrying supplies, refugees, and volunteers. Harper smiled faintly. They're coming to us. They believe. Elias nodded. Not in us, in the fire. And that fire must never die. The shadows were still out there. The danger was greater than ever. But now, humanity was not alone. And for the first time since the Elder's warning, the galaxy had something stronger than fear. It had hope. In the dark void beyond, the shadows stirred, sensing resistance. For ages, no one had defied them. No one had burned against them. Now, something new rose in the stars, a fire they had not expected. Humanity's fire, the turning point. The fire of humanity had spread, but the shadows were not still. They had watched. They had learned. And now, they struck back with something greater than fear. It began at the edge of the Orion Arm. A star, bright, young, full of life, began to dim. Observers thought it was natural at first, but then the dimming grew faster. Whole planets went cold in weeks. By the time ships arrived, the star was gone. Not collapsed, not exploded, devoured. The recordings showed a shape the size of a world, sliding through the void. It was not alive, but it was not a machine in any way the galaxy understood. It looked like a sphere of shifting black iron, covered in towers and spines, its surface opening and closing like a breathing lung. Where it passed, stars themselves flickered out. The Council gave it a name, the Devourer. Humanity gave it another name, the Reaper of Suns. The Council panicked. Some demanded retreat from the galaxy's edge. Others argued for negotiation, as if the shadows could be reasoned with. A few even suggested abandoning all outer colonies, but humanity had no patience for retreat. On Earth, Admiral Wren said simply, "We cannot run. If the stars fall, there is nowhere left to go." And so, humanity prepared a trap. The plan was reckless, desperate, and only humans would dare try it. Near a human colony called Ashura, there was a wide asteroid belt. Thousands of rocks spinning endlessly around a small sun. Humanity began to seed it with hidden weapons. Mining lasers were turned into cannons. Asteroid cores were drilled out and packed with explosives. Old freighters were disguised as drifting stone filled with warheads. The entire belt was wired to human command. Aliens who joined the Broken Alliance called it madness. A Ketheri officer warned, "If the chain fails, the whole system will burn." Elias Dane, now commanding the trap, answered calmly, "Better to burn than to be devoured." Weeks later, the Reaper came. From Ashura's colony, children pointed at the sky. A black shape moved across the stars, blocking whole constellations. The ground trembled, though it was still light years away. The fleet of the Broken Alliance gathered. Only 30 ships this time, many still damaged from past battles. They knew they could not defeat the Reaper head-on, but they did not need to. They only had to survive until the trap was ready. The battle began with silence. The Reaper did not fire weapons, it simply moved forward. Every ship it passed began to die. Power drained, hulls cracking, crews screaming as their hearts stopped. Alliance ships scattered, firing wildly. Beams and torpedoes hit its surface but vanished into the shifting metal. Nothing hurt it. Elias's voice cut through the chaos. "Hold your ground. Lure it closer to the belt." The fleet obeyed. Some ships were lost instantly, swallowed by the shadow field around the Reaper. But others drew it forward, bleeding ships one by one, closer and closer. Finally, the Reaper entered the asteroid belt. The moment came. Elias gave the order. Light the fire. All at once, the belt awoke. Asteroids turned into cannons. Explosives ignited, blasting the Reaper from every side. Hundreds of rocks shattered, flooding space with burning fragments. Freighters disguised. As stone exploded in chains of white light, the void became a storm of fire. For the first time, the Reaper faltered. Its surface twisted, spines breaking under the bombardment. The black metal screamed, a sound felt in the bones of every living being. The fleet attacked with everything they had, striking when the monster staggered. Railguns tore chunks free. Missiles drove into its wounds. Harper's voice rang out over comms. It bleeds. It bleeds. But the Reaper was not finished. Its surface opened, revealing a core of burning darkness. A beam of pure void erupted, tearing through 3 ships at once. The blast ripped apart asteroids, silencing whole sections of the trap. The fleet shook, in terror. Still, the humans did not retreat. Reyes, flying a small strike ship, laughed over the comms even as his hull burned. "Come on, you monster, let's see how much you can eat." He dove directly into the Reaper's wound, detonating his ship. The explosion tore through the core, blasting black shards into space. The Reaper howled again. Its light dimmed, its massive body slowed. At last, after hours of fire, the Reaper stopped moving. Its surface crumbled, and it drifted lifeless into the void. The machine that had eaten a star was dead. The fleet was in ruins. Half the ships gone. The asteroid belt shattered into glowing fragments. But the survivors looked upon the wreck and felt something they had not felt before. Victory. News spread like fire. Across the galaxy, people whispered. The humans stopped it. The humans killed the Reaper. For the first time, the council could not deny the truth. Their speeches faltered. Their laughter ended. They could no longer call it myth. Humanity had turned the tide. On Ashura's broken colony, survivors gathered under the shattered sky. Elias stood before them, his voice steady. "We are fire. We burn even in the dark. The shadows can bleed. The Reaper can fall. And if we stand together, so can the rest." The crowd roared. Above, in the endless black, other shadows watched. For the first time in ages, they felt something new. Not hunger, not contempt, but fear. The final proof the galaxy could no longer deny it. The shadows were real. The Reaper of Suns was dead, burned by humanity's trap. But victory came at a terrible price. Hundreds of ships lost, colonies ruined, millions gone, and the shadows had noticed. The Reaper was not their strongest weapon. It was only their herald. Now the true swarm came. It began with whispers. Entire sectors fell silent in days. Fleets vanished before they could even send distress calls. Worlds that had burned fires of hope were suddenly dark. Then, all signals pointed toward one place. The swarm was moving. Thousands of shadow forms larger than fleets, darker than space itself. All headed for the same star, Earth. The council panicked once more. Some begged humanity to abandon their home. Others offered hiding places, safe worlds, distant moons, but humanity refused. Ambassador Mara Cade stood before the council one last time. Her voice was clear, calm, but unshakable. If Earth falls, the galaxy falls. We will not run. We will not kneel. We will fight here. If we must burn, we will burn so bright that the dark cannot stand it. The chamber fell silent. None dared argue. For the first time in history, the galaxy turned to humanity for leadership. The defense of Earth began. Every ship that could still fly gathered in orbit. Human fleets stood in rows, their hulls scarred but unbroken. Broken Alliance ships joined them. Cathari destroyers, Krell cruisers, Mirren freighters armed with stolen cannons. Even races who had mocked humanity now sent their banners. Above, the blue planet, a wall of fire was raised. On the ground, Earth prepared too. Cities dug deep shelters. Factories turned into weapon foundries. Families carried rifles. Children painted stars on their windows and whispered promises. We will not fall. It was not just an army. It was all of humanity. The swarm arrived. At first it looked like night itself spreading across the sky. Thousands of shadows moved in silence, blotting out stars. The ground trembled under their approach. On the Resolute, Captain Elias Dane stood at the front of the fleet. His voice carried across every channel. This is it. The elders warned us. The galaxy mocked us. But now we prove the truth. Hold the line. For Earth, for every star that still shines. The battle began. The swarm struck like a storm. Shadows ripped into ships, crushing hulls with invisible hands. Voices poured into the minds of every crew, promising death, offering surrender, whispering of nothingness. But the humans roared back. Every cannon fired. Every missile launched. Entire lines of ships burned, not retreating but surging forward. Where shadows struck, humans struck harder. Alien allies watched in shock. The Krell were fierce, but even they admitted, no one fought like this. Humanity fought as if every shot was their last, as if surrender was not in their language. On the ground, the sky lit red. Pieces of broken ships rained through the atmosphere. Civilians fired weapons into the sky, even knowing their bullets could not reach. They fought because not fighting was worse. In the Pacific Ocean, giant cannons rose from hidden platforms, blasting into orbit. On the deserts of Mars, human railguns fired so hot, they melted their barrels. Every colony, every outpost, every world where humans lived joined the fight. The swarm pressed harder. Earth's fleets broke apart, ships shattered. The Resolute itself cracked under fire. Harper shouted, "Captain, hull breach on deck 7. Elias answered without hesitation, "Seal it. Keep fighting." At the darkest hour, the shadows revealed their final weapon. A colossal form larger than the Reaper moved across the sky. It was not a machine. It was alive, an ancient titan of the swarm. Its body stretched like a living eclipse, wings of shadow covering Earth. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. The fleets wavered. Some ships broke away in panic. Even allies whispered of retreat. But humanity did not. Admiral Wren's voice thundered through every speaker. "Listen to me. This is not the end. This is the proof. They think we will kneel. They think we will beg. Show them they are wrong. Humanity does not surrender." The response came from every channel. Soldiers, civilians, children, aliens who had joined them. One single word shouted into the dark: "Fight!" The fleet surged. Humanity lit the sky with fire. Thousands of ships dove into the Titan. Missiles ripped across its body. Kamikaze strikes shattered its wings. Colonies fired their last weapons. Even broken freighters rammed themselves into the beast. And at the heart of it, the Resolute charged forward, every cannon blazing. Elias stood at the helm, his crew bleeding but unbroken. The Titan roared, shaking the planet itself, but humanity's fire only grew. One final strike, a chain of nuclear charges buried deep into its wound, ignited. The explosion lit the void brighter than a star. The Titan screamed, its body cracked, its wings dissolved. And then, silence. The swarm broke. The shadows fled, retreating into the black. Earth survived. The fleets were wrecked, cities scarred, millions lost. But the planet still stood. Humanity still breathed. And for the first time in history, the galaxy saw proof of something greater than fear. The elders had warned the stars. Nothing could withstand the darkness, but they had not known humanity. Humanity had become the shield. Humanity had become the fire, and the galaxy would never forget.